In China, the story everyone's talking about is Toyota bending the knee to BYD, stuffing a Chinese rival's battery into a Toyota badge just to survive. It looks like surrender. But fly 6,000 kilometers west, to Mumbai showrooms and Gujarat factory floors, and you'll find a completely different fight playing out. No white flags here. Instead, two giants, one a scrappy homegrown steelmaker's car company, the other the most disciplined manufacturer on earth, are running the opposite playbook from each other, betting billions on two totally different visions of what an Indian car should be in 2030. One of them is pouring everything into pure electric. The other is quietly making more money off a technology most of the world has already written off as in between. Only one of them can be right. And the data from the first 7 months of 2026 is starting to tell us who's winning. This is Toyota versus Tata, the real battle for India's EV throne. Before we get into it, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's set the board first, because the headline numbers surprise most people. India's overall passenger vehicle market isn't small anymore. In the first half of 2026 alone, over 2.5 million passenger vehicles were dispatched to dealers, up nearly 19% from the same period the year before. Industry watchers now expect the country to cross 5 million vehicle sales for a full year, for the first time ever. Maruti Suzuki still sits on top, untouchable, with close to 40% of the market. But the story underneath that is where things get interesting. Tata Motors has become the single fastest-growing major player in the country, expanding its share by well over 2 percentage points in just 6 months. Powered by the Punch, the Nexon, the Curve, and the Harrier, it has firmly locked down second place, fending off Mahindra. Toyota, meanwhile, is nowhere near that podium. It sits in 5th place, behind Maruti, Tata, Mahindra, and Hyundai, with a little over 7% of the overall market. On raw volume, this looks like a mismatch. Tata is racing ahead. Toyota is a distant 5th wheel. So why are we even calling this a two-horse race? Because overall market share is the wrong lens. The real fight isn't for today's customer. It's for whoever India's car buyer becomes over the next 10 years. And on that question, Tata and Toyota have made almost perfectly opposite bets. Tata's strategy is the one that should feel familiar if you watch the Toyota BYD China story, except flip the roles. Tata isn't looking for a rival to bail it out. Tata is trying to become India's own BYD, a fully vertically integrated electric vehicle company that never has to depend on anyone else for the one part that matters most, the battery. Here's the receipt. Tata's battery arm, Agratas, is building a battery gigafactory in Sanand, Gujarat, backed by an initial investment north of $1.5 billion, with plans to scale toward 40 gigawatt-hours of annual capacity. To put that in perspective, a facility that size can supply enough battery cells for somewhere between 500,000 and 700,000 electric cars a year. Construction has been moving fast. The steel structure for the plant was completed in early 2026, and commercial cell production is targeted to begin around 2026-27, ramping toward full capacity by 2028. Tata Motors and Jaguar Land Rover are lined up as the anchor customers. This isn't a side project. It's Tata trying to own every link in the chain: cell chemistry, pack assembly, vehicle engineering, charging infrastructure, and even end-of-life battery reuse. The company has built what it calls the Tata Uni-Everse, pulling in Tata Power for charging networks, Tata Chemicals for materials, TCS for software, and Tata AutoComp for components. An entire electric ecosystem sitting inside one conglomerate. And it's working, at least on the scoreboard that matters right now. In India's electric passenger vehicle market specifically, not the overall car market, just EVs, Tata is dominant. Through the first half of 2026, Tata held roughly 39 to 40% of all EV registrations, and by July that figure had climbed to 42.5%, more than double its nearest rival. The Punch EV and Nexon EV are doing the heavy lifting, and Tata is layering on battery health certification programs and second life energy storage plans to make owning an EV feel less risky for a market that's still nervous about resale value. If the future of Indian mobility is a straight line to battery electric, Tata is building the machine to dominate it. Now here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because Toyota looked at the exact same electric future everyone else is chasing and essentially said, not yet, and maybe not for a while. While Tata was pouring billions into batteries, Toyota was pouring its engineering budget into one car, the Innova Hycross. And it has paid off in a way almost nobody outside India tracks. By April 2026, the Innova Hycross crossed 2,200,000 cumulative units sold. Within Toyota's own Innova lineup, the hybrid variant now makes up close to 56% of all Innova sales, up from under 50% just a year earlier, while the old diesel Krista keeps shrinking toward eventual discontinuation. Zoom out further, and the picture gets even starker. Toyota is estimated to account for roughly 8 out of every 10 hybrid cars sold in the entire Indian market. That's not a niche. That's near total ownership of an entire powertrain category, in a country of 1.4 billion people. Why does this matter more than it sounds? Because a strong hybrid like the one in the Hycross can run in pure electric mode for roughly 60% of typical city driving, without ever needing a charging cable, a home wall box, or a public charging station. In a country where reliable EV charging infrastructure is still concentrated in a handful of metro cities, that's not a compromise. For millions of Indian buyers, it's the actual answer to range anxiety. Toyota isn't treating hybrid as a stepping stone it'll abandon once EVs mature. It's treating hybrid as the technology that fits India's roads, India's electricity grid, and India's price sensitivity right now. And it's happy to let that bet run for another decade if the market lets it. Here's the twist almost nobody outside the industry talks about. How much of this rivalry is actually being fought inside India's tax code? For years, strong hybrids in India were taxed at a punishing combined rate, 28% GST plus additional cess, pushing the effective tax burden on cars like the Innova Hycross to around 43%, nearly the same bracket as a straight petrol SUV. Toyota's own government relations teams, and even India's road transport minister Nitin Gadkari, publicly argued this was unfair. Hybrids pollute far less than pure combustion cars, so taxing them almost the same made little sense. And Gadkari went as far as pushing the GST Council to reconsider it. That pressure eventually paid off. When India rolled out its GST 2.0 reform in September 2025, hybrid vehicles got meaningful price relief. The Innova Hycross alone saw price cuts of over ₹1,00,000 on some variants overnight. Electric vehicles, for their part, continue to enjoy the lowest GST slab in the country, a deliberate government lever to accelerate adoption. So both companies are playing a game that isn't just about engineering. It's about lobbying, tax brackets, and betting on which way Delhi tilts next. Tata benefits every time the EV tax advantage widens. Toyota benefits every time the hybrid tax gap narrows. Neither company's strategy survives untouched if the government changes the rules, which is exactly why both of them are spending serious political capital trying to shape those rules in their favor. Toyota isn't ignoring electric entirely, and this is where the China story rhymes with India in a way that's almost poetic. In China, Toyota needed BYD's Blade battery to move fast, so it partnered with its fiercest rival. In India, Toyota didn't need a rival's battery. It already has one sitting right inside its own alliance. Toyota Kirloskar Motors' EV entry, the urban cruiser eBella, launched in May 2026. And if you look underneath the sheet metal, it's essentially a rebadged Maruti Suzuki e-Vitara. Same electric platform, same battery, sourced through Suzuki's own lithium-ion cell joint venture with Denso and Toshiba, built at Hansalpur, Gujarat. It's the same trick Toyota played in China. Use a partner's ready-made EV platform instead of building one from scratch. Except this time the rival is a decades-old ally, not a competitor it had to make peace with. Toyota gets a real EV in its Indian showrooms. Without spending years building battery expertise, it doesn't think the market urgently needs yet. And the numbers tell you exactly how seriously Toyota is treating this, for now. In July 2026, Toyota registered just 123 electric vehicles nationwide, a market share of roughly 0.4%. Compare that to Tata's 42.5% EV share the same month, and on paper, It looks like Toyota barely showed up to the fight. But that's the point. Toyota isn't trying to win the EV race in India today. It's keeping a toe in the water, proving it can badge engineer an EV fast if the market suddenly demands it, while the real business, and the real profit, keeps coming from hybrids and its bread-and-butter SUVs like the Fortuner and Hyryder. If you watch the China video, you're probably expecting BYD to show up here too. It mostly doesn't, and that absence is itself a data point. Unlike in China, where BYD is a dominant domestic supplier any automaker can plug into, BYD's expansion in India has run straight into a wall of regulatory caution, tied to years of tension over Chinese investment following the 2020 border standoff. Big BYD investment and manufacturing proposals for India have faced repeated scrutiny and delay, and the company has no meaningful local production footprint here. The exact playbook that let Toyota borrow BYD's battery technology in China simply isn't available in India, at least not right now. That single structural difference is why this entire rivalry looks different on Indian soil. Toyota didn't need to go make peace with a Chinese rival, because the government all but closed that door. Instead, the borrow-don't-build instinct that pushed Toyota toward BYD in China pushed it toward Maruti Suzuki in India, a partner that was already inside the family. Strip away the noise, and here's the honest scoreboard as of mid-2026. On overall car sales, Tata is winning decisively. It's the second biggest car company in India and the fastest growing major brand in the entire market. On pure EV sales, Tata isn't just winning, it's running away with the category, holding more of the electric market than every other automaker's combined growth put together. And on long-term infrastructure, Tata is the only one of the two building the actual battery factory that could make Indian EVs genuinely cost-competitive with petrol cars by the end of the decade. But on profitability, brand trust, and sheer cash generation, Toyota isn't losing anything. Its hybrid dominance means it's selling nearly every strong hybrid car in the country, at premium prices, with margins that a young EV division simply can't match yet. That cash doesn't sit idle. Toyota globally has been funneling hybrid profits into next-generation battery research, including solid-state technology the company has spent years trying to perfect, with commercial targets pointed at the back half of this decade. India's hybrid dominance is quietly helping fund that global bet, the same way Toyota's international hybrid business has always cross-subsidized its slower, more cautious approach to full electrification. In other words, Tata is racing to own the future before it arrives. Toyota is making sure it has the cash and the customer trust to buy its way into that future, the moment it actually shows up, on its own terms, not because a tax bracket or a charging infrastructure gap forced its hand. Here's what makes this genuinely uncertain and worth watching over the next few years rather than declaring settled today. If India's charging infrastructure and battery costs improve as fast as optimists expect, Tata's vertical integration bet pays off enormously. It'll already own the factories, the supply chain, and the customer base when the market tips decisively toward EVs. But if that transition drags out longer than expected, if rural India, fleet buyers, and price-sensitive first-time car owners keep needing a no-charger required option for another decade, then Toyota's hybrid fortress keeps printing money, while Tata's massive capital bet takes longer to pay back. Both companies are essentially betting real money on how fast India changes. One is betting on speed, the other is betting on patience. So here's the question worth sitting with. Is Tata building the empire that owns India's electric future, or is it overextending into a market that isn't ready yet? And is Toyota's hybrid dominance genuine foresight, or is it just delaying the inevitable while a homegrown rival builds the factories that will matter most? Drop your take in the comments, Team Tata or Team Toyota, and if this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of what's actually happening under the hood of India's auto industry, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.